İslam eşcinselliğe nasıl bakıyor?
This one is a complicated question for Muslims to answer. How does Islam view homosexuality? Well, on the one hand, Islam prohibits sexual fulfillment outside of marriage. And so one could not, for example, have a boyfriend or a girlfriend outside of marriage. On the one hand, sexuality is praised as something, from among the things that God created naturally in people, and that people can enjoy within boundaries for the, as a boon from God. God has given us all of these possibilities. But of course, it has to be done within marriage. And the marriage is, as viewed in the Quran, this is between a man and a woman. So typically, this would rule out homosexual behaviors. The Quran also tells us the story of the prophet Lut and his people. And his people were committing many crimes. For example, in the 29th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Ankabut, Allah tells us about what they were doing. Taqta'una tariq, you are cutting off the highways. And ta'tuna fi nadikumul munkar, and you are approaching objectionable deeds within your clubs, your societies. And ta'tuna rijal shahwatan, and you are approaching men with lust. And so we have this conglomeration of sins that they were committing, and as a result, eventually, God punished them. To what extent was the homosexuality the issue for which they were condemned in that story? This is something that is not so entirely clear in the Quran. Elsewhere, it's the homosexuality that is mentioned as the one thing, apparently, that they were doing wrong. But there, too, it is not clear exactly, was it a kind of, like, just simply what we call homosexual unions today, or is it that they were committing like sodomy, and especially sodomy of strangers? Because remember, in Surah Al-Hijr, for example, when the angels came to the Prophet Lut alayhi salam in the form of human beings, and apparently very attractive human beings, then the people came together as a throng to demand these guests of Lut alayhi salam. And Lut alayhi salam wants to protect his guests. So obviously these were not willing participants in any sort of homosexual encounter, and it was the mob that is somehow trying to rape these men. So what is being condemned here in this story? Is it just what people call a homosexual union today, or is it the rape of men by other men? So you see that there is some ambiguity in the story. Nonetheless, the way in which this has been interpreted classically by Muslim scholars throughout the generations is that homosexual acts are definitely forbidden. Now, people may ask, well, what about the tendency that people have? Like some men are attracted to women, that's in fact most men, but some, even a few men are attracted to other men. So what's to be done with that homosexual attraction? To that we can say, well, if we feel an attraction that to do something that we know to be forbidden in our religion, then what are we to do? Well, whether it is this or some other attraction that we feel, nonetheless, we have to curtail our desires, and we have to live within the constraints of what God has prescribed for us. However, this is a topic that needs to continually be studied. It is being studied and discussed among followers of other religions. And other religions have some clearer prohibitions against homosexual acts. For example, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it says that if a man lies with another man as a man would lie with a woman, then the two should be put to death. So this is a very stern reprimand for homosexual acts. But of course, no such clear statement is mentioned in the Quran. We have something of that nature in hadith, but if one looks at those hadiths in detail, one might find that the hadiths are not as reliable as one might have presumed. And in any case, one might distinguish between what the Quran says and what is mentioned in the hadith. So more needs to be discussed about that, but for the moment, it is enough for us to conclude by saying we can distinguish between the tendency and the act itself. The act is impermissible, but the tendency is something that seems to arise within a person for reasons that are not entirely fathomed. And we can say that if somebody has a desire for something and they cannot fulfill it because the religion prohibits it, they will get a reward for being patient with Allah and waiting for our fulfillment of all desires in the life hereafter, where the Quran promises, لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ فِيهَا, they will have whatever they desire therein. وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيد, and God will even grant more than what people could have imagined. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to what is best and help us to overcome this difficulty, and may Allah grant patience to those who have desires that they are unable to fulfill due to the religious dictates. Peace be with you and the mercy of Allah. I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally. Assalamu alaikum. Speaking to you from the Science, Philosophy, Religion Foundation in Istanbul.